Hello English lovers and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the job interviews and CVs. Going to a job interview is a very important step in your life. Sometimes you can do it only once and sometimes you need to do it for several times. So let's start with the CV and the important part it is supposed to have. So every CV has in the beginning the basic information about yourself. Name, address, gender, age, date of birth. In some countries it is important also to state if you are married or single. Okay, these are the personal information. Then the next important part, which every employer is interested in, is what were your previous jobs and what is your previous experience in the similar work as you are applying to now. When you are writing about work experience, make sure to start with the most recent one. So the last job that you worked in will be the first one, the previous job before the last one will be following one. Then maybe you can state some interesting projects or something that are your accomplishments and that you are proud of. This can be also interesting for a potential employer. Next part should cover your education. Education is also an important part of a CV because it will tell the potential employer what you studied and what you are good at or what you have experience in or what you have specialization in. Make sure to write down not only what you studied but also if you have any certificates, diplomas or any accomplishments you are proud of. At the end of the CV we normally write also our skills. It means if you have some special computer skills or if you have any skills that are required for the field you want to work in. Okay, these are the basic parts of the CV. Now let's imagine the situation that you send the CV to the potential employer and they invited you to the job interview. So you come to the job interview and now they will ask you questions. If you have never been to the job interview, I will tell you something more about it. If you have already been to some job interviews, it won't be a lot of new information for you, but maybe you will find there something useful. And then after this short introduction, we will go directly to the questions that employers tend to ask the potential employees. When you come to the job interview, in the beginning they ask you to introduce yourself. It means you should spend 1 or 2 minutes as a short introduction. Who are you? Where are you coming from? And maybe you can include something why you are applying to this job and why you think you are a good candidate for the company you are applying to. Then they would normally ask you to tell them something more about your previous job experience. They can ask you, tell me how does your normal work day look like, or tell me what were your responsibilities in your job, or what are your responsibilities if you are still employed. So what the employer needs to know or wants to know is only what you were normally doing, so they have a picture of what is your work about and they can make a conclusion if you will be a good fit for the position you are applying to. Also, if you have experience from the other fields, make sure to mention them as well. Okay. After these questions, today is very common to ask questions that could be or that are considered by some people as tricky questions. What is the purpose of these questions? They I ask you these questions not to make you stressed or to evaluate you on the quality of the answer, but the only point is to make sure or to see how good you are able to react to question you weren't expecting. I have here prepared some of the most common questions they can ask you, so you can practice your responses with me. Okay, let's start with the first question. If your manager asks you to complete a task you thought was impossible, how would you go about it? Let's repeat it one more time. If your manager asks you to complete a task you thought was impossible, how would you go about it? The question means if you got any task and you would be sure or you would think that this task is impossible either because you don't have enough time, or you don't have enough experience, or you have some problems with completing the task, what would you do? So the most common answer or something I would say would be I would maybe try to ask some colleagues, or I would ask my boss, or I would ask somebody from the team. The best possibility in this case would be to ask the person who gave you the task. If for some case it would be impossible, you can say you would ask somebody from the team, or you would ask somebody from your colleagues who are there longer and who would be able to advise you what to do about this task. If none of these would be possible, I would still say, okay, I will try to solve the task as good as possible in the conditions and experience I have. What else you can do? You can at least try, and if you fail, okay, but you at least tried. This is a little bit similar as the one we had before. How do you handle ad hoc tasks when you have a lot of work? Let's repeat it again. How do you handle ad hoc tasks when you have a lot of work? What does it mean? Ad hoc task is task that you receive and you didn't know you will receive this task, and the task needs to be completed immediately, or as we say in English, ASAP, as soon as possible. Okay, what can you answer in this case if you get this question? The response I think would be appropriate is that you will think about all the tasks that you have and you will try to prioritize this task if it was possible. If it was possible, you will move it to the top of the task list that you have, and you will try to complete this one if it was possible before the other tasks. If you thought the task was impossible, you can try to ask your boss or your colleagues for help. I think nobody could say anything bad if you ask for help, because nobody expects that you will do everything on your own and that you are the only one and the best one. Let's go to the next question. Do you prefer to work in the team or by yourself? Let's repeat it. Do you prefer to work in the team or by yourself? I think this is a very common question in job interviews. So they want to know if you prefer to work with other people, if you are a team player, or if you prefer to work by yourself. I think that it's not a good answer to choose either from this side, because if you say you only like to work in a team, it will mean that you are not able to complete tasks on your own. If you will say that you only like to work on your own, it will mean that you are not a team player and you probably wouldn't be a good fit to many job positions. I would say that you prefer, or I prefer, to work also in team but also by myself. It can depend on tasks, or it can also depend on other things. How do you handle working with someone you have difficulties with? Let's repeat the question. How do you handle working with someone you have difficulties with? How do you work with somebody, or how do you handle somebody with whom you have some problems, some difficulties? It can be either personal problems or it can be work-related problems. In either case, in work you are expected, or job you are expected to be able to not bring these problems into your work, or to be able to handle them as an adult and to be able to work properly. So what could be a good answer for this question? That if you have some work problems with this colleague, you will try to figure them out, to talk about these problems. If it's not possible between the two of you, you could maybe ask your boss for help or somebody else. If neither of this is possible and the colleague is just somebody who is making your life complicated, in this case, I would say I will handle the work that I have with this colleague, but other way I wouldn't solve this problem because it's impossible if the other side is not interested to handle the problem. What was your first job? Did you like it? I think this is also a very basic question in job interviews. What was your first job? How did you like it? Maybe also you can tell why you chose this job as your first job. And I wouldn't make big fuss from this question because they just want to know how you started your work life. How do you get the information out of someone who isn't a very responsive? Let's repeat the question. How do you get the information out of someone who isn't very responsive? How do you get the information out of someone who isn't very responsive? What does it mean? It means you need to get some information out of somebody. You need to find out some information that is important for you to complete the task or some kind of job you are working on currently. And this person isn't responsive. It means this person doesn't want to answer, or maybe is in bad mood or something. You don't know because we don't see into the head of anybody. So what could be the good answer? The best answer would be that you will do everything possible to get the information out of this person. You can either do it on your own, or you can ask somebody else for help. Again, I think asking for help is not a bad thing, and it can also help you and show you that you can rely on the members of your team and you trust them. I think this is also a good answer for the possible employer. How do you behave or work when you want to make a good impression? Let's repeat the question. How do you behave or work when you want to make a good impression? We want to know if you work or behave differently when you want to make a good impression in comparison to how you behave normally or how you work normally. Because in general, we know that when you want to make, or anybody wants to make a good impression, they will behave a little bit better. They will make more effort. When you want to make a good impression, you will do everything possible so the person you are talking to or working with will have a good impression from this cooperation. How do you get to the work mood? Let's repeat it. How do you get to the work mood? So it means, how do you get into this feeling that now I'm going to start to work. Now I'm in work, I have to start working. For some people, it can be coffee. For some people, this stimulus could be traveling to work in bus, in car or in train. During this travel, you can maybe prepare for it. For some people, it could be switching off your PC. It can be many things. Maybe you can think about it, what makes you feel like, okay, now I have to start working. Maybe don't try to be too creative. Just say something that could be relatable and something anybody could think, okay, this may be true, this is good thing. What book do you think everybody should read? Let's repeat the question. What book do you think everybody should read? So in this question, we want you, or the employer wants you, to give some suggestion for a good book. This suggestion could be related to work, or it also couldn't be related to work. In general, what we want to know when we are asking this question is what you are reading, what are your preferences, and if maybe in these books you find some values that can be used for your life, either personal or work life. And what do you think, Vicky? What is the best book we can read? Okay, Vicky will tell us next time. So choose any book that you like. Maybe try to find some book that could have some good value, either for your job work, or maybe for your life. For example, if somebody asked me this question, I would say that the book I will advise people to read would be Never Eat Alone. This is a very good book. I liked it very much, and in general, the book is talking about the importance of relationships and connections with people. Because we are living in a society, we are working in teams, we are meeting people all the time, so it's impossible to be alone. And if you choose to be alone, you are sparing yourself of the possibility to make new connections that will bring you good experience, good memories, and sometimes even good options for your life. Think about a time you missed a deadline. How did you react? What were the consequences? So in this question, the potential employer asks you if you ever missed a deadline and how did you react in this situation. It means the employer wants to know if you were stressed, if you panicked, or if you handled the situation quietly and calmly. For example, let's say you missed a deadline that was for a very important client. How did you react? Were you trying to find a solution with your client, or did you panic, you collapsed, and you couldn't do anything about it? After the situation passed, what were the consequences? There are many options of the consequences. For example, the smaller consequences could be that your boss calls you to his office and maybe he tells you, okay, this wasn't your best work, but try to do it better next time. Or sometimes they can fire you if it was really important project. And there are many options in between. So try to think about situation like this and try to figure out how you handled the situation and what were the consequences. If none of this ever happened to you, you can also use the situation from school. If you are just finishing university, you can use some situation from school. For example, if you had some important tests and you weren't able to study and you failed the test, what did you do next? Did you try again? Did you pass the test for the next time? Or Did you completely collapse and were you depressed and you never tried again? I think in case you never tried again, this wouldn't be a good example for a potential employer, because employers want to employ somebody who is trying. What drives you in your professional life? Let's repeat the question. What drives you in your professional life? So it means, what is your motivation in your professional life? What do you do or what do you think about to motivate yourself to do the best possible work that you can? For many people, I would say it is money, it is the salary, maybe some benefits you can get in your job. For some people, could be satisfaction from work. I'm satisfied when I do good job, my boss praises me, and we are all satisfied. For some people, it could be also something else. Maybe that other people admire you, or other people envy you, how good you are in your job. What makes you unique for your job position? Let's repeat the question. What makes you unique for your job position? This is very good question, even though I think that it's impossible to find so many unique employers for every company, employees for every company. You can come up with some interesting responses for your potential employer. For example, you can say you have some extraordinary experience, or maybe you speak language that is not very used in your location and it can be your advantage. Try to find something that could be your advantage. It doesn't have to be completely related to your work, but it can be something that could be useful for your potential employer. We are coming to the interesting questions. Name your 5 strengths. Let's repeat the question. Name your 5 strengths. It means, what are your good qualities, your good traits. So for example, you can say you are hardworking, you are reliable, you are team player, you are detail oriented, goal oriented, you always try to complete the work as good as possible. Anything that is related to you and the work you are doing. Try to come up with some characteristics or strengths that are related to you and that could be also good for your potential employer. The opposite of this question is, name your 5 weaknesses. Let's repeat the question. Name your 5 weaknesses. So it means the qualities that you can work on, or the qualities you are not very proud of. Many times the employer asks these questions because they want to know also if you will be able to admit that you are not good in certain things. For example, you can say, sometimes I am a little bit lazy, or sometimes I am not punctual, I'm struggling with it. In general, people are afraid to talk about their weaknesses because they think this will bring a bad light to them when they are in the job interview. It depends, because if somebody who is doing the interview with you is a normal person, they will understand that everybody has their strengths but also their weaknesses. Anyway, I would be cautious about what I will say to this question, because if you say you are not always punctual, the employer maybe wouldn't be very satisfied with this answer, so maybe try to find some trait that you are not good at or that you are trying to work on. How do you like to be managed? Let's repeat it. How do you like to be managed? It means if you need a boss or want a boss who is strict, or if you want a boss who is friendly, if you want a boss who tells you exactly what to do, or if you want a boss who lives things up to you and just wants the result. It's different for everybody. Some people can prefer one thing, some people can prefer the other. I think there is no bad answer or good answer, just to make sure that it complies with the preferences for the job you are applying to. Who is the biggest influence on your career? Again, who is the biggest influence on your career? So if you have any role model or somebody you are admiring in relation to your working life or to your job. Maybe, for example, if you are a doctor and your parents were also doctors, you can say, okay, my biggest influence were my parents. I chose to be a doctor because they are doctors. Or, for example, if you are working in economics field and maybe your grandparents or grandfather was economist, you can say, my biggest influence was my grandfather because I always liked when he worked with numbers and I wanted to do it also. Again, choose something that is true for you and that is related to the work you are applying to. How would your best friend describe you? In this question, the employer wants to know what your friends think about you. Again, it's impossible to know what your friends think about you, but try to be as honest as possible. Again, I wouldn't talk too much about your bad sides or weaknesses, so don't say something like, oh, my friends would say about me that I like to drink a lot and we party whole weekends. This is something I would leave out in job interviews, but maybe you can say, oh, my friends would say about me that I have a big heart, I always help. Anytime that it's possible for me, I help them when they ask me for help. Again, find something that is true for you. If you could change one thing about your personality instantly, which one would that be? Let's repeat the question. If you could change one thing about your personality instantly, which one would that be? So, what are we asking in this question? It means if there is something you are not satisfied with your character or with any of your traits or characteristics, which one is that? And if you would like, or how would you like to change it? So, for example, somebody who struggles with being consistent and with being punctual can say, okay, I'm trying to be more punctual, I would like to have this trait. Or somebody who is impatient can say, okay, I'm trying to work on my patience because it's not my strength. Okay guys, this would be everything about job interviews. I hope you enjoyed the video. Also, Vicky was assisting us. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe and share it also with your friends. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write me about your questions in the comments and I will be happy to answer them. Or if there would be more questions, I will make another video and make sure to answer all of your questions so you will be successful in your job interviews and also with improving your English. Take care and don't forget to study regularly so you are the best version of yourself in English. Bye bye!